get chucked something. It's like pin the tail on the donkey. Tag, I thought you were Kofi and not. Kofi and not? I thought you were
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about Kofi.
Hello and welcome to Labour Social here at the Labour Conference. We're in room ACC 22, is it? Right, so in the basement. We're in the basement. And I'm here, I'm Ben Hughes, and I'm here with Supertansky and Phil Morehouse of a different bias, Supertansky of Supertansky fame. You just had the name change, haven't you?
No, it's still Supertansky,
Oh,
but
is it?
I've Tansmith is my name. It's a ridiculous evening.
So what we're going to talk about a little bit today is how Labour could improve their social media, because at the moment their social media output it's okay, isn't it?
It's not good.
So Keir Starmer has just done his speech. I went straight onto the Labour Party YouTube channel to find out how many had watched the big speech before the general election from the next Prime Minister. And he gets about as many watching it as my Saturday evening stream. guy in a bedroom.
Wow. They really need to build up that audience.
You're not secret, Keir Starmer.
In reality, I suspect it's actually slightly more, because when you look at views streamed, it's usually a bit lower than it really is. But nonetheless, the next Prime Minister is giving this massive speech all over the news, and he probably got a little bit more than I habitually get on a Saturday evening.
Wow.
And that's the problem.
So how did you build up your channel? What was your... Because you started doing gaming, didn't you?
I started doing gaming. I cut my teeth in YouTube. I learned my craft on the gaming channel, which wasn't with the intention of building up an audience. It was with the intention of providing sort of information in my niche area which did not exist at the time. But then when I had to switch, because various things are very boring, I decided I'd like to do YouTube. So I thought, like, vlogging, that's the lazy man's way to get into social media. So I thought I'd do that, and I didn't know what I was doing. In 2018, politics started breaking at the end of 2018. I thought, Brexit was going to be really big, so I'll do it on that. I knew exactly what I'd be doing. And ultimately, what you need to do, if you're going to transition from I want to provide this message to I want to get that message to as many people as possible, therefore I need to grow. To be a large channel, you have to focus on engagement first. There are two types of content I talk about. I call them message and engagement. The message is what you want to present to people. And if you look at, for example, a lot of campaigns, whether it's the Labour Party or anyone else that has a YouTube channel, 100% of their content is the message. It's what they want to get out to people, and it's not what people want to listen to. So what you need to do is you need to identify your target audience, and you need to identify what will make them click on your content or read your content or listen to your content, and provide that. And then your message is folded into that, or in my case it might be, every now and then I do a video, and I know it's not going to do that well, but I think it's really important to do it. Every now and then I do one of those.
Yeah.
And if I only ever did that content, I'd get like 1,000 views a video. But because I habitually get 40,000, 50,000 views a video, I know that when I do the message, depending on, if I even get 20,000 views, that's rubbish, but that is 20 times more than I would get if I only did that. And I've done a couple of things, cheeky things this year. During the local election campaigns, Keir Starmer put something on YouTube about something, I forgot what it was now, but I thought to myself, I wouldn't have chosen that, it's not that engaging. But I thought, do you know what, I will do my version of what you've just said on my own channel, and I got 20 times as many views as the next Prime Minister. And then about a month ago, and I didn't actually realise this had happened, I did a video on the Labour Social channel, which is still very much gross. It doesn't get many views. I put stuff out there each Sunday, which wouldn't get many views if I did it on my channel, but it would get much more on my channel. So it gets a few thousand views, specifically on Labour policies, right? So I did one on an aspect of Labour's NHS policies. Coincidentally, and I didn't know this until I checked later, Wes Streeting, the next health minister, unless the Tories have a few different ones, he talked about NHS policies, and I got more views than he did. He's setting the policies, he's deciding the policies, I was just talking about them as a third party.
Is that on this like the official channel?
That was the Labour Party channel.
Official channel, yeah.
And you know, so they and I don't know to what. I wonder if groups like the Labour Party and other campaigners don't see the value in things like YouTube or other social media, because maybe they look at others that are trying to campaign and see, well, they don't get much traction on it either, so they think there's not as many of their target voters interested in it. It's like, no, you're just doing it wrong.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing, and they're all doing it wrong.
I think it's more the fact that they're aiming more towards the older voters than they are the younger.
Well,
That's what I've heard from like the inside,
Yeah,
that they're
but
aiming towards them.
The mad thing is that like a lot of the people who watch our videos are older.
Are in that age
Actually
bracket.
older.
And
Yeah.
you know, if I look, you know, I can quickly look over 50%, and I can see exactly how much of my viewers are 55 years old or
How many
older.
subscribers do you have now, Phil?
So I have 170,000. That's of less importance to Labour. What is of more importance to Labour is that every month I can see from my analytics, I get through to about 320,000 unique accounts based in the UK. And as some people watch YouTube as like a couple or a family type of thing, I am getting through to more than 320,000 people every month in the UK.
Incredible number.
And you know, Labour are missing out on that. So, in fact, in the last month, 56% of all my viewers were 55 years or older.
Can I ask questions?
Yeah.
Why are you on YouTube? Because you're not on YouTube, are you? Or are you?
I'm
Why are
starting
you
to
on
build, well, I'm starting to build up YouTube. I started out on TikTok, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you, I started out more or less just rinsing Tory MPs, and it became very popular. People really liked seeing me take the mick out of them, but then it got to the point where it got really disturbing around the time of COVID, and I started delving a bit deeper, and then I discovered the things that the government hadn't done, things like exercise sickness, where they hadn't replenished the stockpiles. I got into investigative journalism, and I'd amassed the following. So I thought, if I can get this message out to people with the following that I've got, still throw in a little bit of, you know, razzing the Tory MPs. It's different algorithms on
Right.
TikTok, totally different. But the important thing is, well, it's scary, but it's also useful. A lot of young people are using TikTok instead of Google now as an information source. More young people are
Okay.
using it. So that gives you, it's like, with great power comes great responsibility,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because you've got to make sure that everything that, well, I make sure everything I'm saying is factual. It's not going to get me sued, and it's factual. They're the two things I'm worried about.
Absolutely.
Because we know the Tories love to they're starting to sue people, right? So yeah, but the algorithms are totally different, and the thing with TikTok is it relies way more, and I'm sure YouTube does too, on trending topics. So you could have no followers at all, and if, say, when the Russell Brand thing was breaking, you chuck out a video about Russell Brand, you could just be sitting there, no effort put in, a minute of you just talking about Russell Brand, and that would just go, it would fly. But the only MPs that I see on TikTok, unfortunately, are people like bloody Hancock, embarrassing himself horribly. But then you've got the younger kind of like Labour MPs like Nadia Whittam, like those guys, like Zara Sultana, etc. But I think we need to get more of like maybe the shadow cabinet in there, because what we lack, I think, when it comes to younger voters is them showing any like elements of their personality and who they are as people. And I know they have to kind of adhere to rules and all those kind of things, but if they could bring a bit of that out, they would probably, you know, people would know who they are.
Yeah.
I think the problem we have, not enough people know who these people are.
Yeah.
And I think the two problems that Labour face when it's looking at the social media output is, first of all, it doesn't make enough content.
No.
Yeah.
It's putting out one video every few weeks, if that. So
Yeah.
it's people aren't engaging with it. That's the second thing, engagement.
You don't build numbers
You
up.
don't build numbers up. So we read the comments. You know, most of the time we shouldn't read the comments, but we do read the comments and try and have that engagement. When we do live shows, like we're going out live now, we've got 288 people watching online,
Yeah.
and we've got comments coming on the phone there.
But what you just said there, I mean,
Yeah.
like, when we got to power last time, Tony Blair had this pollster called Philip Gould, you might have heard of him, and he wrote this book called The Unfinished Revolution. In fact, William Hague went and bought it for every Conservative MP because they tried to copy it, but he kept talking about permission to engaging with people.
Yeah.
Now, we might talk to our bit, about Labour. Nobody wants to know about that, but if you stick something on TikTok and say, oh, I had to go down the shop last week and buy a bottle of milk, somebody gets involved in that,
Yeah.
and then it
Yes.
becomes
It
something
drives
else.
engagement. So
You know.
they're the two things that they really need to start
Yeah.
pushing. And I think the Labour Party will do it very, very well to employ a few social media influencers to make content every
If
day.
they made use of us lot,
Yeah.
we would be getting them,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's-
I'm not being, conceited.
No,
We know how these apps work. We know how to build engagement.
yeah.
We know how to get people on side. But mind you, we can also probably say the things they can't.
Yeah. So it's good that we're at arm's length from Labour. We wouldn't want to have to run everything through
Yeah,
Labour
not
No.
affiliated,
HQ.
no.
Well, everybody needs their own Barclay group, don't they?
Won't go that far.
Oh.
But yeah, so what we'd like to see Labour do in the run-up to the next election, because one of the things that they say is, well, we don't really engage that much unless there's an election. So as soon as we go into election phase, you'll see a lot more videos on YouTube. But by then, it's too late. You haven't
Yeah.
done what Phil's
Well,
done.
the
He
Tories
put in
are right on
the
this.
hard work.
Yeah.
He was, how long did it take you to get to your first 100,000 subscribers?
Over a year in my case.
And it graphed as well.
Yeah,
Videos
well,
every
by that time I already knew how to, you asked about why we used our particular platforms. In my case, I already knew YouTube, and I knew at the start of 2019, I didn't even have 1,000 subscribers on that channel because I wasn't doing it properly in 2018. And I just said, from the 1st of January, I decided in December, of course, the previous year, but I decided that January, I'm going to do it properly, and I grew incredibly quickly. But it was still probably only about 42,000 subscribers at the end of the year. It is possible to grow faster than that, but I was doing it whilst doing full-time work. I was a teacher.
Just as an aside, Labour's official YouTube channel has 47,000. So Phil was there part-time after
What?
Yeah.
Labour's official YouTube has 47?
47,000.
We've
We've got 36. We've just hit 36, I think.
I've reached 20,000
Social.
in the last month or so. Too.
Yeah.
I'm
But
trying.
the thing is that, people, they'll subscribe if they think they get some benefit from it. What's the benefit? If you look at the Labour Party, I'm happy looking at how I wanted to really make some money, so. But if what is the benefit? I'll probably stop it here.
They could do with Phil not just on the camera, they could also do with him in the back room looking at all the stats. 'cause-
All
I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
How do I find you on YouTube, Phil? What's your name?
On YouTube, I would be a different bias.
I mean, you're
A
super
different
analytical with the way that you approach it. I mean, I have to say, we've all got totally
Bloody hell,
different
you came
approaches.
straight up there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
only put 3 letters in.
yeah, it's one of the most popular
Yeah.
politics channels.
Yeah, there's not a lot of there's no going to be million subscriber politics channels really in the
What
UK.
have you done on George Michael? A different corner? You haven't done that one, that's not you.
Anyway,
So, there's a few things like a minute here, a minute there,
Yeah.
and they've got on their videos, their actual videos rather than live stuff, 8 hours ago, 440 views. My noon video today is one of those, I had to do it over the weekend, it's never going to be one of my better ones. That'll be like 25,000 by now. There's-
37,000 for Tory Panic.
I was on it yesterday. That was actually not my not good one yesterday. The other one from yesterday was loads more. The thing, and Labour could easily get more than this. I am someone in a shed. They are the Labour Party. They are the largest political party in Europe. They are about to form a government. They're a big deal. And if they will say, if they are, and the other thing is when you talk about, we don't really know who these are. Like, how many Labour members could name? I know they've just changed it recently, so even I couldn't. But even after a few months, how many could actually name the shadow cabinet? How the typical Labour member? How far would they get before they go? I'm not sure now.
Yeah.
So what about the all members of the public? How many could they name? Hardly any.
yeah.
That's the problem.
This is why we
So
need to increase
make
their
them-
visibility.
So
Yeah.
they become household names. It was fine in the 80s when I was growing up. That's spitting image everyone knew.
Yeah,
everyone,
exactly, yeah.
They don't have that now, which they might. I don't
Half
know
of
if they
Liverpool
might
thinks
have
on Keir Starmer walking through the town and saying, I care, how's it going? On
Right.
this.
But, so they could raise their own profiles, there's the benefit there, but they also, there's going to be people on social media anyway talking about their policies in none too positive terms, sometimes even deliberately misleading terms, why aren't they countering it? Why aren't they doing something? It's so easy, yes.
So I've got a bit of experience with local campaigning, and
Yeah.
perhaps my angle is sort of coming at it from that local
Yeah.
level. I've seen the anxiety up close and personal, why they're anxious about talking about those negative messages, and basically it's because they don't want to get dragged onto the Conservative campaign grid. They've got that sort of theory that if you're talking about what the Tories just said, you're not talking about what you want to do. Your PPC isn't.
You're responding to the culture
Yes.
war, you're responding
But
to
you
their
are doing-
taglines. Yeah.
I would say two things to that. First of all, you get to say, well, this is the Conservative position, this is why it's nonsense, this is our position, backed up by people with brains.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I would also say recently, Keir Starmer has talked about Brexit, he's talked about asylum. It's like Rishi Sunak's going, oh, talk on my platform, we want to talk about this. Keir Starmer has now gone over there and gone, all right then, we do.
Yeah.
So they're comfortable now, they're confident,
Yeah.
you know, but they need to be able to carry on that confidence into government.
And
Well,
to-
sorry, I was just going to pick up on a point that Tan just made about TikTok and people searching for stuff on TikTok. If people search for a Labour MP on TikTok, we want our videos to come up, Labour's videos that we've made.
Yes.
We don't want a stupid video of them at a party 17 years ago, or you know, a video that the Tories have made to slag them off. You know, we want our content to be getting out there.
And to add to that, we want to counter the Tory narrative on those platforms.
Yes.
We don't want it just to be like, say, if they're whatever horrific culture war they're throwing out this week, we don't want there to be, you know, no response to that from the other side. So we do our best to try and counter it, but we could really do with, you know, Labour making an effort to counter it too. But again, I get they can't constantly just be, because otherwise you're just letting the Conservatives control the narrative, aren't you? So.
It seems to me, I mean, the question, just playing devil's advocate here, because I've been listening to all of your channels for long enough that I've heard this discussion about Labour social media, and the question I've always really wanted to ask is, you know, playing devil's advocate, why should they engage with an online space that is as toxic and as negative as the one that you all deal with? And I've seen comments, you know, that come in on some of Femi's videos, on his Instagram pages. I've seen how horrid it can be. Can you blame an elected politician for putting themselves at risk by putting themselves up?
They're going to be doing that anyway.
Yeah.
They're going to do it in
All they're
person,
doing
yeah.
is this way, they're at least talking directly to some people who'll be interested.
Yeah, and also, like, if they don't, the other lot will kind of not just win, but they will outnumber them. So what you've got to do is you've got to have some decent people in there, and it's a fine line between countering the narrative that they're pushing and also pushing out your own policy. They could use these platforms to kind of say, all right, yeah, that's crap. This is what we're going to do.
They do use Twitter, which is the worst.
Yes.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
I've got to say a few words, you know, about YouTube. I think that as far as social media platforms are concerned, it's the one that I don't know about you guys, but I get the least amount of abuse.
Likewise.
And because it's always linked to someone's Google account, so they don't want to lose their Google email address. You know, they haven't just, you know, signed in on 50 different accounts on Twitter.
It's not owned by us.
Yeah, it's not owned by us, which also helps. But also, it automatically moderates comments, and when people are watching this, so some of the people watching this I've given them moderator status, so I don't have to necessarily moderate this chat. If they see a troll turn up or someone who's making horrible comments, they'll just ban them off the channel. And that's great because they can still watch the channel. It's not like on Twitter where, you know, you block someone, they can't say anything. No, they can still see your content, they just can't comment on it.
Bruce, which channels? That's not Twitter though, is it? What are you
YouTube.
on? YouTube.
Well, the worst thing about Twitter is people can create multiple stock accounts,
Yeah.
right? So they create all these different accounts, and then even though it is technically illegal, I think it constitutes malicious communications or whatever, I don't know which one it is, but they could just, you know, continue to post your stuff from behind a block.
Yeah.
And if you block someone, this is a weird feature of Twitter. If you block someone, they can still you can still see what they're doing. And I think that's weird. So if someone blocks you but you don't know who they are, they can quote tweet you from behind the block and you'll never see who it is that's kind of coming after you and sending kind of trolls your way. And it's really dangerous, Twitter.
And there's other platforms as well, like Discord. It would be really good for politicians to use to talk to just Labour Party members, because you can select, right, send out the code to all of those people who are a Labour Party member, they use the login details, and they're the only people who can access it.
Can I interest you by telling you we've actually tried this experiment?
Yeah.
We actually, in our CLP, we tried this experiment of launching our own Discord. The problem that we ran into was that actually, while a lot of the younger people are online and interested, getting a critical mass of people who are mostly older, mostly in their 50s or 60s, who are typical Labour members who kind of had they're set in their ways, they do things the same way. It takes a while to get them onto a new platform. Getting them onto WhatsApp has been actually a big enough challenge, and that's been successful.
Which CLP are you?
Worcester.
Worcester.
Yeah.
You're not far from me then, I'm rugby, so yeah, I've found that. I mean, we've got a lot of older members that are really interested in PR, obsessed with PR. You know, schools, hospitals, economy. Like we're going to win by knocking on doors in rugby, saying, "Oh, we want to change the voting system." You know, that's what you're going to get.
I think it needs to be a bit more return to thing. I mean, we need it, but but again, I don't think it needs to be a door knocking issue. I think we can just kind of stick it in the back of the manifesto in the second election. I don't think we have to make it kind of like. I know a lot of people want it in Labour. But a lot of people aren't even here nor there all day. They don't care about it. So we don't have to make a big sort of dance about it.
Do you know Simon Murphy in your constituency? Yes.
Should we carry on there?
Yeah. Not where we were.
We don't know where we were. So what we need to think about in terms of how we're going to actually get them to engage. I mean, this is the challenge that we've got.
To get Labour to engage.
I mean, what we need to do is understand Labour's reticence, ultimately, isn't it? What is it? Is it that they don't see the value, in which case they need to be shown the value, because the value is evident?
Well, that's part of the reason we set up Labour Social, to show what can be
I
done.
think it's not wanting to rock the boat.
Yeah.
I think this is such a crucial election that we're going to be facing. And I think they are so risk averse, and I understand why they're risk averse. And I certainly don't want to do anything to mess it up. And also I think that us lot, actually, by being Labour allies, are helping them out anyway. I think what they could probably do with is utilising us maybe on a consultant level for the second election term, possibly if they need it, depending on how things go. But
Yeah, they need to understand that they can't just ramp it up at election time. They have to cultivate a community. They need to think about it as we're cultivating supporters here, and we're engaging. A lot of politically engaged people, a lot of people interested in politics, and they want a voice. Like, people will join a CLP because they want to have their views heard.
Yeah.
And Labour needs to do that on a larger scale as well. There'll be people who won't join the Labour Party, but people join the Labour Party, it's a few 100,000. How many votes we need? 12 and 30 million.
Yeah.
So there's lots of people out there who will support you. They don't want to join as such, but they still want a say. They want to feel that they're connected.
To do physical meetings, and they're too bloody lazy to do
Well,
it.
this was something that we said during the Brexit wars. You had 100,000 people marching against the Tories' flagship policy. And I was like, these aren't just voters; these are activists. If you gave them a bunch of flyers, they would go around their local neighbourhood and put a flyer in everyone's house in their spare time. You wouldn't have to pay them. They wanted to do it, but they weren't given the opportunity. And I see that happening now. I don't think it's going to be it's going to matter too much in this election, to be honest with you. I mean, looking at the polls, they haven't been shifted in a year now. Hopefully, touch wood, the Tories are on the way
can't
out.
be complacent.
But we can't be complacent.
We're going to fight it like we're 20 behind.
Yeah.
From a headline point of view, we cannot afford to just go around not leafleting and expect to win election after election, because in 3 years' time we will be in problems with the economy. What were the legacy?
3 years, you're going to be in problems from day one.
So we need to know exactly who's voting from the electoral register, who's voting, why they're voting a particular way, and talking to those people.
I think where you're coming from is the fact that obviously it's not going to be a fix overnight.
No.
The Tories have absolutely
Yeah, they
trashed
have.
our fix, set it on fire, left a bomb site, and legged it.
They've trashed it.
But we're going to have to, like with our tactical vote campaign that we've been talking about, things like that, you start the work on that years before an election. You start the comms years before an election. You can't. Yeah, so they should be getting their ducks in a row now.
I find that Labour sort of, and all political parties, they treat new media like old media. So if you watch an official Labour video, they're exactly the same as the old what are they called? You know when they get to have a slot on TV during an election?
Party
Party political broadcast.
That's how old-fashioned that is
Same
to you.
music.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. It's another era.
Couldn't even get the phrase.
Consider
Out of
Same
Wow.
music, same shots of the
Bloody
white cliffs
hell.
of Dover and a flag.
Another thing I'll point out to this is the Tories at the moment are getting free party political broadcasts, granted not to a great audience, but they're taking it more serious. They're not taking social media serious, I have to say. But for example, you've got loads of MPs on GB News. Because they think that that's the way to because that allows then senior Conservative politicians, even Rishi Sunak, to talk to them, to do a party political without Keir Starmer having right to reply, because it's not classed as a party political, it's an entertainment show. But so like, that's what they're thinking. So they're already thinking of how we can do things like this. So Labour should be doing the same. There's not going to be a TV channel set up for them like that for their part of politics, but they can use it themselves. They can use social media, and they have to keep it going, because when it comes to the following election, like even if you've got I am like 320,000 people, I am like one. Just individual accounts. I don't know, I can't possibly know how many people, I get lots of people tell me they watch it as a couple. You're approaching then, potentially, the number of people based in the UK that I am talking to on a monthly basis. You are approaching the actual membership of the Labour Party. Now imagine the Labour Party running a YouTube channel or similar, which would outstrip mine. They would be definitely getting through to more than Labour members. There's absolutely zero doubt about that. And they are missing out on that opportunity to present their views.
Absolutely. They are.
But like with GB News, obviously there aren't that many people watching it. But what happens is they'll do something stupid, you know, I don't know, Neanderthal will dress up like a cat and eat some cat food or something.
Yeah.
And then that'll go viral, and it'll end up getting 1 million views on their YouTube channel. So they farm it onto YouTube to get those clips.
Outrage farming.
Yeah, but if there is no material, there's no content that we can use of politicians from Labour, with MPs and representatives of the party, that's a big problem. And they could do something that's very professional, looks really good. It's really important to make it look good. And it won't cost them much money. They don't have to spend money on setting up an expensive studio in London.
I think the problem is as well,
helicoptering guests in. You do it all on Zoom.
it must be the case as well that people that work in Labour communications don't understand social media themselves.
Well, some of the
Almost
bits are
certainly
good.
don't
Their
use it.
shorts that they put out on Twitter are
Occasionally.
pretty good.
Occasionally, I
And
think.
they kind of go on the viral trends. But yeah, they're
It's too
missing.
few.
I mean, the problem
Too
that we
few and far
have,
between.
what I hear as a Labour member is we don't know what they stand for, we don't know what their policies are. The way they find out this could be through having a channel where they tell you, and not in a kind of corporate Reeves and Starmer walking down the street, sunset, you know, looking all like sepia toned. We need something better than this. Because that is, I look at that and I'm just like, oh my god, what are you doing?
But use
Like,
the
that's
more
not
engaging
real.
ones as well. Like, you know, there's members of the cabinet that come across really well. The likes of David Lammy, for example.
Yeah, he does.
Use them.
Yeah.
You know, they could be the people that do a lot of this stuff.
And Reeves, she's actually like informally very charismatic as a person.
Who's
Like,
this?
wildly, Rachel Reeves. Wildly charismatic.
When we see on Gammon Box News, we see Jacob Rees-Mogg interviewing, I don't know, Gillian Keegan or somewhat, and you think, how can two MPs be interviewing each other? That can't be, you know, right for off.
Yeah.
That's broadcast. There's nothing to stop Labour doing that on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ofcom aren't going to touch them.
No,
They could
they're
have they could have a daily show or weekly show or whatever, where they have an MP and they
Yeah.
interview another MP,
Yeah.
like on a news show. Just don't call it news.
Like, I mean, that's the problem. Like, Keir Starmer can put on whatever he likes on the Labour Party channel and it will get a few thousand views. He could do an interview with me, he never would. He could do an interview with me, he'll get 100,000 views easy.
Same. If we did like a shared TikTok or something, it would go into stellar.
Call us, Kia. Go on.
I was going to say, how would you, in terms of like the vision for where you'd like the Labour Party social media to be, I think we all agree it's not going to get there in one go. but in terms of like the next step for what specifically they could do, whether that's going into YouTube Shorts, whether that's going onto Instagram, but in a way, because I think one of the things I notice about social media is you either get it right or you get it horribly wrong. And if you get it horribly wrong, that's something you can never really
They
do that.
just need to, I will give my time for free to advise them. I spent a lot of time learning how YouTube works. I don't know how the other platforms work to build up because I've only built up on one platform, but I know how that one works. And I can tell them exactly how you build up your channel.
Yeah.
It's a very easy process. It's one of those things, it's an easy process to understand. The actual how you do it, because that requires engagement, it requires producing that engaging content that also serves your interest, but the actual way to do it, knowing the platform, that easy. I say that easy. I could do a lecture series with them.
You have with us. There's a formula to it.
We've done Zoom calls with Phil and other campaigners, and he's just said you need to do X, Y, Z.
That was just the basics. There's much more detail you can do.
Well, we'll do a follow-up, but since then, my follow account on Labour Social's got all. Your follower has. Femi's done the same thing. A. Thompson, who does A. Thompson and other disappointments, which is a brilliant show.
Brilliant.
I love A because he'll stay up all night editing the videos. It makes him look fantastic. It makes ours look a bit chunky, doesn't it?
Really does. It's bloody every single one is good. Yeah, A. Thompson and other. You should check him out on YouTube. He is brilliant.
Is video editing that hard on?
Yeah.
So, but you don't need it.
Yeah.
You need, it needs to be presentable,
Yeah.
and you need the audio is more important than the visual.
Okay.
Because people will not put up with crap audio.
No.
Yeah. Sorry about that last night, everyone watching.
Yeah.
Sorry to all of my viewers.
In terms of what you need, mine's very simple because I spend all of my time researching and writing what I want to say.
Right.
I spend very little time editing.
Right.
So mine's quite formulaic in terms of how I edit it. It takes me 10 minutes max to edit my video.
Wow.
So you don't have to do lots of bells and whistles.
Doesn't have to be high tech. People just want an engaged, they put a face to a name.
Well, I use OBS, it's free software, and I've got downloads of like Labour Social, little squishy things, when it comes up on the screen. For an intro, I press the intro button. I've got my camera set up as an auto cue. I've got my phone set up as an auto cue, and I read it, and that's it. I finish. I press on my mouse because I've already got the mouse pointer over the outro, and it's the outro. I don't edit it. That's a video, and then I put it.
You can do it.
I upload it.
Like this big.
And I'm like Phil. I spent most of the time writing the scripts.
My daughter's mates did a bloody horror video.
Oh, and the thumbnail. The thumbnail's really important.
That's like it was a spooky film. I thought, how the bloody hell have they done that? It just looked like a spooky film,
It's not that difficult to make things look now. You make them look pretty good. Even if you don't have a green screen, you can obviously have that blur background thing that they do on Zoom. And a lot of these tools are free. One of the things about YouTube, and why we all use it, it's free. Imagine having the ability in the 1980s to broadcast your show into the pockets of literally everyone in the nation, potentially.
I mean, the thing is also, I think, circling back to the corporate videos, it's the people buy, if they're going to sign up to you or you're going to do well, they buy your authenticity.
Right, yeah.
And I think the problem we have with these corporate videos is that it's inauthentic. We're not learning anything about them from those videos. We're seeing people just trying to look profesh, walking along the street or whatever. We're not learning about what matters to them as people, and what matters to them as people is how you relate. And I haven't done it on purpose. Like, this has all just got terribly out of hand for me. Terribly out of hand. Like, I never expected.
Come on YouTube.
It's got terribly out of hand. Come on holiday like yesterday. It got really out of hand. But I think what people like is the fact that you share their concerns. What I'm talking about is something I'm dealing with, which lots of people are dealing with. And that was the good thing I think about his speech today, was that he recognised the struggle that people are kind of going through. So we need more of that, and we don't need it in a kind of like, to Laura Koonsberg, who's biased, on a show on channel, in the morning. We need it kind of like just them being direct and engaging with people, because the problem with politicians is there's emotional and physical barrier people aren't learning about them, knowing their names, knowing their policies. So
If I knew there was a weekly show on the Labour channel
you might choose
where,
it,
you know, every time, each week, same time each
Yeah.
week, and that's another thing, so thumbnail,
Yeah.
don't spend ages editing, these are top tip,
Consistency.
consistency, and get your stuff out at the same time,
Yeah.
so that your viewers know to expect. There'll be a
Yeah.
video at 4 o'clock,
And
there'll be a
they're
video at 8 o'clock, and so they know your schedule. And also, working with other content creators is so important, because 90% of the clicks I get on my videos on Labour Social come from Supertansky or from Phil's channels. So someone's watched one of their videos and we're being recommended down the right hand side or under the video if you're watching it on a
Yeah,
product.
okay.
So they've looked for something, next thing to watch, they've scrolled through, they've seen your thumbnail and they've
Yeah,
gone.
yeah.
And because we all appear on each other's shows, the algorithm it groups us together.
yeah,
So one of the things you can look at when you're looking at the analytics on Google, YouTube is really, really good.
very good.
But it'll tell you exactly where people come from to watch your videos and what other videos they watch. So for me, like I think nearly all 10 of Phil's, the top 10 of Phil's. And then I might have something like Novara Media. It might be Owen Jones or
Femi.
something, or Femi, or Tansky or someone. So
Femi's all right.
yeah.
Ready.
Femi's great. He was on the panel with
Yeah,
us
yeah,
last
he's
night.
Femi.
Good live. Yeah. Good
Where's
live.
Femi?
Yeah.
Femi
He
was
can't get
on
in. He's kicked out the party, wasn't he?
He was on our comparably massively different event last night. We were like sold out with
Just yeah.
standing room only last night. Yeah, it was,
The last time I met Femi was at the launch of the Brexit party in Coventry. So I sneaked in at the back.
Yeah.
All the horrible people. So if you look on there at the back on this, just watching what's going on in the room, and he was outside doing his little bit. So
well, we're sorry to disappoint, but Femi's not here.
No.
Well,
You're still great.
let's talk again. But thanks for that.
No worries.
I've
Okay.
learned a lot tonight. That's brilliant.
We're
Cheers.
going to wrap it up there, so
Yeah.
thank you very much for coming along. Thanks
Yeah.
everyone watching home. We have 538 people watching
Oh,
at
bloody
home,
hell.
so big round of applause for everyone watching at home. Thank you very much. Woo! Thank you very much for the super chats, really appreciated. And we'll be back. I'll be back in the morning at Morning Brew at 9:30 with hopefully probably a little bit of a hangover.
We're going to try and find our way into the party tonight.
The mirror party tonight. So thanks for watching. Bye bye.
Where's a will, there's a way. Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to stop it. It's not
Come on,
stopping.
we've
Why
got to
are
go
you
out there and have a
stopping?
look who's out there
Bye.
and